The average Russian soldier sent to the front lines in 2026 now survives mere minutes. His lifespan is measured not in days, not even in hours, just in minutes. Think about that. This is all thanks to Ukrainian drone innovation. And the same innovation is why now Russian war bloggers are openly warning that a Ukrainian invasion of Crimea may be just a matter of weeks away. So in this video, I want to walk you guys through 5 separate stories that all connect back to that one number, the growing fear inside the Russian war blogger community that Ukraine is preparing a full-on counteroffensive on Crimea. Putin's bizarre public speech yesterday claiming that Russian forces are advancing on the front lines when no one believes him, not even his own propagandist. And the fuel crisis that's getting so bad that Russians are now openly Googling how to siphon gas. So, my name is Sam, you're watching Business Basics, and let's start with the biggest story of all. Let's start with the story Russian war bloggers cannot stop talking about. About a week ago, Ukrainian defense forces publicly confirmed that Russia is preparing to deploy nearly 24 watercraft from the Dnieper flotilla of the Black Sea, specifically to hunt and destroy Ukrainian unmanned boats and reconnaissance units around Crimea. In simple words, Russia was convinced that Ukraine is about to land troops on the peninsula, and they were scrambling to defend against an amphibious operation. According to Ukrainian Navy spokesperson, the Russian deployment is a response to Ukrainian reconnaissance activity in Crimea's coastal zone. Russia was seeing Ukrainian scouts in the waters, and they were freaking out because they knew something was coming. Then this story went mainstream when one of the biggest war bloggers yesterday just confirmed that this counteroffensive, the Ukrainian counteroffensive, could be just weeks away. Take a look at this report. This is Igor Girkin, the former Russian general who actually helped architect the original 2014 invasion of eastern Ukraine, and of course the annexation of Crimea itself. This guy is pure evil. He shot down a civilian jet just because he believed it was a Ukrainian plane, and on top of that, he does not see Ukrainian citizens as human. He wants to eradicate all of them. But right now, he's actually sitting in a Russian jail because he's been criticizing the Kremlin too publicly. He's against the way how Putin is running this war. He wants to escalate this war to a whole different level that even Putin does not agree with. Well, now he's tweeting from the jail cell saying that because of Putin's failures, Russia may actually lose Crimea. Take a look. Girkin warns that Ukraine's drone offensive is setting conditions for a direct attack on Crimea by chopping Russian forces in the south of Ukraine into isolated fragments with limited maneuverability caused by a lack of fuel. In a new message, this is what he writes. In principle, the situation is still developing strictly within the framework of the enemy's strategic plan. Our troops continue to exhaust themselves with any attacks in the secondary. At the same time, the Ukrainian armed forces had begun implementing long-prepared plans to gain air superiority and inflict damage on strategic targets deep inside Russia. Their plan had not failed, but had completely succeeded, and now the enemy, aka Ukrainians, have an opportunity that they have never seen before. They can attempt a major offensive operation with, if not complete, then partial air superiority. Naturally, this superiority is not everywhere. And of course, with time, Russia may be able to solve this problem. This is exactly why Girkin concludes by saying that the enemy likely has several weeks to conduct its own active offensive operation inside of Crimea, if of course they have the forces and resources to do so. Now, talking about counteroffensive, Crimea offensive may be coming in the future, but that doesn't mean Ukraine isn't advancing on the front lines right now. Take a look at this report from a fellow YouTuber, Preston Stewart. Russian sources themselves are now reporting that Ukrainian forces have advanced in the western Zaporizhia direction. After capturing the town of Primorsk, Ukrainian formations have continued pushing further south, creating a real threat to Russian positions in Kamiansk. Now, all this is only possible because of one thing, Ukrainian drone innovation, and that has also caused a big problem for Russia. And this is where we talk about the biggest news I have seen in a long time, and that relates to Russian casualty figures and exactly how long is the life expectancy of a new Russian recruit. Take a look. From the moment a new Russian recruit arrives at the training ground to his eventual death in combat, the average time is between 10 days to 3 weeks. Again, we don't know the exact numbers because Russia doesn't want to publish it, but that's a pretty bleak range. Now, important to point out here, that's the full cycle, right? From him getting on a bus to go to a training facility to him eventually fighting on the front lines. But let's narrow down even more. Let's zoom in to the average survival time that a Russian recruit has on the front lines. According to this report, that's only between 20 to 35 minutes, which is insane. I was shocked at the fact that this figure is being reported in minutes, not days or something like that. It's minutes. This may be worse than like World War II. This is World War I level during trench warfare when situation was just purely bleak. Now, just for comparison, Russia is now incurring approximately 8 men killed or seriously wounded for every 1 Ukrainian casualty. This report also says that Russian monthly casualties have averaged more than 30,000 per month for this entire year. And I'm pretty sure November, December of the last year, maybe even October, it was over 30,000. So Russia has been losing a lot of men and they're having a harder time recruiting new people. Now, just to put in perspective how desperate Putin is getting, the new sign-up bonuses are now reaching $80,000 US dollars. And on top of that, if you sign up for the army, you also get up to $140,000 in additional debt relief. Even after all this, again, this is a lot of money even here in the United States. But in Russia, this is like a generation-changing money. I'm pretty sure you can go your whole life with this kind of money, but it's not enough to get people to now sign up for basically a death sentence. Now, this is something we've been breaking down with former Navy SEAL Chuck Farr on a regular basis in our new series, Battlefield Breakdown. And here's a clip from that where he explains exactly why Russian soldiers are not surviving on the front lines, why they're not surviving for a long time. Take a look. You know, what we're seeing increasingly is Ukraine will send a number of drones against a single target. And to show the payload capabilities, you could see that those brick walls were being broken down. They have a variety of payloads for the drones as well. And there we see the entire house go. So there are incendiary, there are explosive drone warheads and incendiary. First clip here, we have a North Korean soldier knocking down a drone and then walking up to it. And here is a guy who has actually somehow managed to down a drone, and he forgets that there's a war on, and this thing was armed. So kids, if you do knock down a first-person drone, just don't do what this guy just did. So that thing was down. It was no longer flying, but its camera, its electronics, everything else was on. This is being filmed by a second drone that tells the first drone, fire your warhead. So there have been several other videos just like this, where people will walk up on a downed drone. And again, these things mostly they contain shape-charge warheads. So there's the charges oriented in a specific way, but it's also blast fragmentation. So it'll put out an explosive jet anti-armor, but it also blasts fragmentation material in all directions. So what's the best procedures to deal with drones? Like if you're on the battlefield, well, if you knock it down, you treat it just the way you treat a dud artillery shell, right? You stay away from it and you call somebody that supposedly knows what they're doing. I think I would get back 200, 300 meters and hit it with a tracer round, which probably would set it off. But again, military high explosives are extremely stable. For example, you could have a big block of C4. If you hit it with a regular bullet, it just won't do anything. It takes pressure and heat together to set it off. So you hit that downed drone with an armor-piercing incendiary round, it'll probably go off. But the thing to do was run away here. The other thing I'll point out is this guy's situational awareness, right? So he knocked this down, and he has what we call in the SEALs target lock. He's only interested in this drone. He never once looks up in the other direction to see that he's being filmed by another drone, right? So you got to keep your head on a swivel, right? That's what we say. Maintain situational awareness. Now, the full Battlefield Breakdown episode is exclusive to our members here on YouTube, and of course our members on Basics Insider. So if you want access to the full version plus rest of our other members-only content, you can join the channel membership right now by clicking the join button down below or clicking the link in the description or by going to basicsinsider.com. Your support is what makes it possible for us to keep producing this type of independent military journalism. So thank you so much for everyone on board, and if you want to join, you can join by clicking the link in the description. Now let's get to the part where Putin himself was publicly forced to address all these problems. If you're someone who's been following Putin for a long time, you know that he doesn't really do bad news. He's always there for good news, but he lets other people in his government take care of the bad news. So it does tell us that situation has to be really bad for him to publicly admit to something like this. And of course, this all has to do with Ukrainian strikes on Russian refineries and the fuel shortage that it's causing. Well, here's Putin giving a speech that's probably one of the most disconnected things he has ever said in public. Take a listen. Overall, strikes on our civilian infrastructure are carried out not only to inflict some damage on us, although I think that is also important to the enemy, but also to fuel an information campaign, or to be more precise, perhaps not even a campaign, but an information operation as part of the confrontation with Russia. At a minimum, the goal is to sow self-doubt among us and undermine confidence in our own strength. Even better, they aim to provoke a split in Russian society, force Russia to pause, at least for a short time, the offensive of our troops along the line of contact, and create conditions for starting a negotiation process on terms favorable to them, that is, to our adversary, we will not give them that chance. Moreover, and this is important, these terrorist attacks have absolutely no impact on the situation at the front. This is the fundamental point. No matter where these strikes on our infrastructure are delivered, they have absolutely no effect on the situation at the front or on the line of contact. Putin's official position is that there is no fuel crisis in Russia. He says that, hey, everything's fine, Ukrainian strikes are just, information warfare. They're not a real problem. All that fire and smoke you're seeing in the skies, well, that's not real. That's just propaganda. That's the position he's taking. And unfortunately, it's not just me who disagrees with him. Even the Russian public, from regular citizens all the way to war bloggers, everyone is now speaking out against what Putin just said. And they're losing their minds because all these people basically are questioning, who's giving him this information? We know Putin doesn't really go to any buildings which has windows, in Russia. Gravity is a very dangerous thing. And on top of that, he's just hidden in his bunker. So I'm sure he cannot see the sky that's covered in black smoke. But who's telling him that everything is fine in Russia? That's what everyone is questioning. And they are publishing videos talking about that. Here we have a Russian citizen explaining to Putin that there is a fuel crisis in Russia, all the while he is sitting in a line to get gas for his car. Take a look. Today, our great president said loud and clear that there is no crisis and that fuel reserves are almost the same as last year. I believe him. Absolutely. I've been standing in line for 45 minutes at the only gas station in the city where I managed to find gasoline. Before that, I drove past 8 other stations. And judging by the number of cars here, the fuel reserves really are there. They're just all concentrated at one gas station for the entire city. So our great president wasn't lying again. Every time you listen to him, it's nothing but the truth. Music to the ears. The next up, we have a pro-war Russian blogger who's basically calling out, saying that whoever is giving information to Putin, that guy deserves to be punished because he's just lying to the president. This is the old school Russian strategy of good czar, bad boyars, meaning the system is where anything bad that happens in Russia, well, it's the advisor's fault. People who are advising the czar. It's not czar's fault. But if there's anything that good that happens in Russia, the credit, of course, belongs to the czar. This is a pretty old school but brilliant system of protecting the czar that Putin has been using. After all, he has been nicknamed the new Tsar of Russia. But take a look at this clip. Regarding these flag sticks, in reality, most of these guys died right there where they were filmed. I know exactly where they planted them, when and why. It's unclear why the fuck you're doing this. This war on credit, honestly guys, it's already fucking exhausting. Your hat has burst. Everyone took off the glasses a long time ago. Everyone understands everything. Everyone knows everything. But the top leadership still needs reports and briefings that today we advanced. How the fuck are you supposed to advance when the lads are filming videos, sticking their hands out upwards and recording how many drones are flying? There are 30 of those things that can be thrown at each one. That's the kind of shit that's happening. Let's stop shoving this into the president's head. I don't even know what to call it. Before they were screwing an A in his ear, constantly bullshitting into his ears. Maybe we need to make visors or something on both ears so the noodles don't fall on him. But they still keep confidently pushing this shit in, sowing confusion. I think our plant will cope, will pump up. There's an unclear situation with Irkutsk. There's no sowing, no diesel. How is that possible? They have their own plant there in Angarsk. Is it not working? So enemies are inside us and there are more of them than anyone else. Now, luckily, there are other Russian officials who are talking about how they're going to solve this issue, and we'll get into that answer in just a second. But before that, let's quickly go over our meme segment. Now, you guys know the rule. If you like the meme, just hit the subscribe button down below. If you're already subscribed, just hit the like button. Now, let's look at these. The first meme talks about 2 different Russian air defenses. There are 2 types. One that just doesn't work at all. And the second one is the one that only fires friendly targets, like the one we saw in Moscow, where some kind of missile took out a Russian fuel depot. And the image we got, well, I'm pretty sure that's going to be in museums 100 years from now. Now, the next image, I want to clarify for the YouTube algorithm. Guys, this is a meme. I'm pretty sure it's either photoshopped or AI. It's not a real image. But I'm not trying to lie to you guys, but it's a funny meme nonetheless. We have President Zelensky acting as a doctor using a syringe, which is the Ukrainian domestically produced Flamingo missile. And I'm pretty sure Putin is not going to have a good time with this, which is the reality. Now let's move on to the next meme. Next meme is a Russian woman leaving Crimea next to the Kerch Bridge, because after all, I don't know if you guys knew this, there's a 12-hour-long traffic jam on the bridge of people trying to flee the Crimea Peninsula. Well, this Russian woman is like, hey, whoever was advertising this peninsula as a vacation spot It's just not true. So she's trying to have a word with the manager, which is probably Putin. Last one is a bit sad. It relates to the data that just came out recently that we covered earlier in the video. It's Russian soldiers and Putin sending them to die. The saddest part about this war, some of the Ukrainian soldiers have, I think, commented on this, is the age of Russian soldiers just keeps getting younger and younger because the casualties Russia is suffering. Anyways, let's get back to now serious topics. Unfortunately, this is not a funny meme. It's more sarcastic and sad. But now let's get back to how Russia wants to solve this fuel crisis. We have a comment from Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov, who's asked about, hey, where are we going to get the oil from? After all, there is an oil shortage. I think everyone agrees after all the videos we have seen. And this is what Peskov says. At Sunday's meeting, the president, among other things, instructed officials to look into importing petroleum products. Is there any indication yet of which countries those imports could come from? Well, for obvious reasons, we won't speak about that. Contacts are underway. If agreements are reached on acceptable prices, then this will happen. It would be another step towards stabilizing the market and is aimed at curbing this panic-driven demand. Now, there's a reason why Peskov did not give out details, and in a way, the reason is a meme. It's just a long one. So let me explain. Just a few days ago, we had one of the biggest Telegram channels, news channels in Russia, share this news where he says, hey, all the people who are having problems in Crimea, don't worry. We have a shipment. A lot of oil is coming to Crimea. Your problems are going to be solved very quickly. Now, guess who was watching this news channel? Ukrainian drone forces. And as soon as that shipment arrived, well, you can see in the next image what happened to it. It's now burning up in smoke. And this is when Russian war bloggers actually turned on this guy, fighter bomber, and they basically said, yo, hey, why are you sharing all these details? And I'm guessing Peskov saw all this, and now he's like, hey, we're going to solve this problem, but we're not going to give you details as to where that shipment is going to come from. If I were to guess, I'm guessing it's probably going to come from Kazakhstan, maybe some from Belarus, but they don't want to share any details because of what happened in this situation. Now, while the government is doing whatever they're doing to solve the issue, Russian civilians have started solving the fuel issue in their own way. And it's not a positive. Take a look at this data. Google searches, or I guess Russian version of Google, which basically is the same thing as the ripoff of Google, it shows that Russians are now searching how to siphon gasoline at record levels. They have never done something like this, and that tells us something about how bad the situation is. In fact, there are people on social media sharing tips and tricks as to how you can do something like this. So take a look at this clip. I thought I would never ever need this skill in my life, but the time has simply come, Dad. Thanks. Basically, enrollment is open for siphoning petrol. You understood everything. I will teach you how to siphon petrol. I thought, never, God, this isn't... I'm pretty sure someone's going to start selling a course on how to siphon gasoline pretty soon. Now, did you guys know Russian billionaire Roman Abramovich actually got his start as a teenager, smuggling oil into the Soviet Union? Allegedly. He has a habit of suing authors and journalists, so I'm saying allegedly. But if he does want to sue me, my name is Kash Patel. He can find me in Washington. Nonetheless, that's all I have for you guys. If you want to support the channel, you can do so by becoming a member down below. I'll see you guys in the next video.